Hi, welcome to the award-winning Ed Brown Show. And once again, continuation of education this month. And once again, we have our mentor and a mentee here. We have Dr. Eugene Williams, and the mentee is Heath, Corelock. And what we're trying to do is continue this month, bring you things about education. Everybody needs some. Now, whatever you're doing, like I said, you got to stop, and this young man is going to give you some information. Dr. Williams, welcome again.
Thank you.
Every time I look, you're bringing someone dynamic to the show. This young man here, we talked about mentoring and everything, and I think you continue to doing a great job. Congratulations. Tell us about it.
Well, Heath Corelock. Heath Corelock is one of my favorite mentees. I met him some years ago at Annapolis Road Academy where we worked. He taught social studies and I taught English. He impressed me as one who could articulate his point so very well. He also impressed me with his poetry, and he impressed me with his concern for other people, for humanity. The way that this young man worked with those students at Annapolis Road Academy would win any contest, if there were a contest, on teaching. He's an outstanding teacher. He's an outstanding father. Oh my. When I worked with him, he wasn't even married. He's married now with 2 children. And you know what?
He caught it, huh?
Oh, he caught it.
You passed it on to him.
Right, and
right?
he's been throughout the world. He's been to Iraq. He's been to Vietnam. You know,
Wow,
and
he's only 20 years old, man. How did he do that?
he's a young man. He's a
Yeah.
young man, but he has had a lot of experience. I used to tease him and ask him questions. When are you going to write that book?
Mm-hmm.
And he would say, well, it's not time, Doc. I'm going to write it later. I think that with the experience, especially the most recent experience that he had at the Clinton School there in Arkansas, that he's now ready to write that book. Mm-hmm. But he is one who impressed me with the ability to read and to get other people excited about reading. He was aware of the book that I wrote, It's a Reading Thing, Help Your Child Understand. Mm-hmm. He has a copy of that book, and already he has begun to use it with his little ones. So you see, this young man is very, very important to me, mm-hmm. and is important to anyone who comes in his sight. That's the kind of person he is. And I'm just so happy to be here with him today, to share him with you today.
Great.
Heath Corelock. You know, there are other things that I missed, of course.
Right.
Well, and he could tell you about those. Yes.
Come on, welcome to the show, Heath.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations on all the things you've done at such a young age there, you know. I mean, keep up the good work. Tell us about it. Start off how you grew up and how you got involved in this, and Dr. Williams' part of influencing you.
Well, first of all, it's a pleasure to be here. It's a pleasure to be alive, to have been through so many places and eras that this country has gone through, the war on terror, the aftermath of September 11th, and to be an area kid, and then to travel to the regions where we took actions and things is really important for me to say. Thank you for having me.
Tell us some of those areas.
I grew up in Prince George's County, mm-hmm. Hyattsville and New Carrollton. A good childhood with fun and basketball. I was a junior Olympian as a child at 10 years old, so I understood competition. I understood grit and the will to win and things like that at an early age. And I think all children should have an opportunity to compete, whether it's in athletics or other ventures, and we should encourage that in their emotional development, emotional intelligence, and many other things that come with that. I was also a Geography B champion in the 6th grade at Beltsville Academic Center in Beltsville, Maryland. Why is that important? Because so much of my initial curiosity was piqued by winning that and competing in the state Geography B, and ultimately becoming a U.S. student ambassador to Australia between the 7th and 8th grades.
What was the subject matter when concerning Australia. Tell us about
Well,
that.
during that time, it was 1994. It was the summer of '94, and we traveled as children, young people, from Prince George's County and from Montgomery County. I somehow got put in the Montgomery County troop, and enjoyed them all the same. We were 13 and 12 and 14
Yeah, that's
during
what
that
I want
time.
to hear.
But during that time in Australia, the Aborigines
Yeah.
were beginning
Those
to
are the
protest,
natives.
the native people,
Right.
beginning to protest and take a stand for being respected in that society. The discussion about rainforests was just beginning to come into full view in terms of how much we're burning trees and cutting them down, and the way we're using the rainforests and how important they are to the world's oxygen in terms of being the lungs of the earth. And other things in Australian government. But certainly that opportunity as a 13-year-old
Wow.
was significant. And that set
Very.
up later downstream some of the things I've been able to do later. I graduated from St. Vincent Pallotti High School in Laurel, Maryland. I was student government president, but I was also a basketball player. And it was fascinating to be on
You
a
could dunk,
nationally
right?
ranked basketball team. I could.
You could dunk.
I could. I could. And I guess from there, getting the opportunity to go to the Naval Academy, although I didn't graduate, was certainly the most respected choice I
Experience.
could have made during that time. And the lessons I learned and gleaned from that have continued on. There, you have to have a fighting spirit. And though I had injuries, and though I struggled academically because, in large part, because of the emotional side of things, I wanted to play basketball while I was
You're
there.
right.
And I didn't get that opportunity in some measure because of the injuries, and ultimately a frustrating experience. However, it's what you learn from opportunities like that.
Yes.
And when you have to push yourself through situations, when you have to discover a deeper will within you, that's how I've been able to carry on. And ultimately, I got a chance to go to Edinburgh University. Now, Dr. Williams told me to point out that I did attend, in that interim period, Prince George's Community College. So I believe in community colleges as well. I think the things that PG Community College has been able to do in the lives of its immediate public is significant and is becoming more emphasized from presidential administrations like the Clinton administration, the Bush, the Obama administration. Community colleges are more of a resource than we've ever known in this modern economy. So that was also important.
It fills a monetary void too. Yeah, you know, so many things. You know, it takes $40,000 a semester to go to school. You know, 4-year college. You know, when you can, and some of the students haven't decided really what they want to do the first 2 years in college anyway.
Well, some people don't know what they want to do still, whether they're 40 or 31 like me.
You know, Heath, I like the story you told me about the academy and the individual you met but did not meet because the person would not shake hands with you. I thought that was really interesting. But I like what you tell me also about your meeting President Clinton. Tell us about that.
Well, in the 7th grade, I had the opportunity to be party to President Clinton making a school visit at Martin Luther King Jr. Middle School in Beltsville. And it made Jet Magazine, and you know that was 1994 as well. President Clinton was quite popular right before those midterm elections, and then again towards the very end of his presidency because the economy picked up. But he visited that school. He had Clarence Thomas there, of all people. What an arrangement. He had Janet Reno there, who was the Attorney General. And so you had these high-profile government officials in a setting where there's 7th and 8th graders.
Right.
And wasn't that fascinating? And they talked about at that time, it was the 40th anniversary of Brown v. Board of Education. And that's the purpose they came to the school. After it was over, they gave the talk. President Clinton shook hands with different parts of the audience, and I happened to have shook his hand.
Well, you met him again recently, did you not?
Well, I had to, but that was the singular childhood meeting that I had. And the White House sent the school or someone in the White House press pool or something like that. I believe it was the White House, though, sent the school the photograph. Didn't bring it for you, Mr. Ed Brown, but I still have it. And the vice principal at that time came up to me one day when I came off the bus and gave me the photo.
Oh,
And,
wow.
Eventually.
And it was signed, right?
It wasn't signed.
It wasn't
and
signed.
I had opportunities over the last 3 years to get that signed.
Good.
President Clinton, I've been with him in 2010, 2011, and 2012. He's gotten accustomed. He always speaks to me when he sees me. And it's not because I met him in the 7th grade, because he's met hundreds of thousands of people, if not a few million since that time. But certainly going to the University of Arkansas's Clinton School of Public Service, getting a master's degree in public service was part of that pinnacle in my life's achievement.
I like the project you worked on just before leaving there, the project with reading.
Well, following my graduation, I had an opportunity to turn a graduate project into a job for that summer. And I've moved since then back to the East Coast, and but I was the summer readings program coordinator for Little Rock in their Promise Neighborhood. The Promise Neighborhood is a federal policy by the Obama administration to get community-centered school situations to happen. It's based off of Jeffrey Canada's Harlem Children's Zone in New York. Jeffrey Canada is a renowned, innovative educator, and he found a way to take community resources and evolve them in the school system, overlap the missions. So if you have a school, that school needs to have different contributions, needs to have good nutritious meals, it needs to have an after-school program associated. This is Jeffrey Canada's philosophy. It needs to have counseling for parents and for children. He set up something called the Baby College, where expectant parents get a chance to take courses on how to begin properly nurturing their baby and establishing a relationship, having the people talk to the baby in the womb. But the Promise Neighborhood policy from the Obama administration is based off of Jeffrey Canada's Harlem Children's Zone. Over 300 entities got a chance to apply for this, but only 21 were awarded Promise Neighborhoods. Little Rock was one of those towns. And Little Rock was one of the only of the 21 to have the university as the fiduciary agent in that process. And so you had a university assisting the community, playing a role in the public schools. And that's just dynamic. Now, with that came partnerships with the library, with the healthcare apparatus, like the Children's Hospital and the medical school, the University Medical School that was nearby. Nonprofit organizations got involved. And so you have this huge overlapping partnership where the focus align to support children. That's the main focus. So it's not splintered off, it's overlapping and it's focused and it aligns. Our Central Arkansas Library System had a summer reading program in place. But as I experienced in the United States and abroad, there are certain deserts. And I'm not talking like Sahara deserts, right? I'm talking food deserts we have in this country. We also have library deserts. We have whole portions of cities that may not have a library. And in Little Rock, in the Promise Neighborhood, there was no public library in this 5 to 10 square mile radius. And that happened to be, if you combine the census tract data, that's where the poorest and most violent and most vulnerable citizens were. They didn't have a public library there. They're building one now, and it's almost finished. It's part of their Children's Library Initiative. I happen to work for the gentleman who is the director of that Children's Library Initiative. And I was deployed in partnership with the Promise Neighborhood and the library to the areas, since they didn't have their library as a resource, we took free books and we distributed almost 2,000 free books to almost 1,000 children and families.
What about
because
the funding?
one in every 300 kids at the poverty line and below have their own grade level age appropriate book, and you can look that up on the Reading is Fundamental website. Their CEO talked about this. And so we did a project that struck at the heart of that very statistic. And kids below the poverty line were getting their own grade level, age level appropriate books. And to see the fascination, the excitement, and the enjoyment on those children's faces is what life is really about.
You must have something to say to parents out there about what they can do at an early age and later to get their children to read, to improve their vocabulary, you know. What do you have to say about that?
That's personal, Doc. That's personal. In this book, it's a reading thing. I happened to get a copy from its author, this guy right here, and I actually used it. I found myself using the book with my daughter this year. What I'll do is I'll take, at the beginning of the book, they go through words associated with science, and these aren't little words. These are big, and she was 1 year old, and now she turned 2 recently.
Like carbon
Even
dioxide,
though,
huh?
and when children are at that age, they begin repeating what you say.
Yeah.
And so we're using these large words, very large words with 4 and 5 syllables, and watching her. You spend just 5 to 7 minutes going over that in a day. And maybe you do that 2 times a week or something. What I found, now this is not scientific, this is parental and direct, experiential. I found that her vocabulary, she wouldn't use those words the next day, but her ability to talk with comfort, with ease, with interest, increased the next day. And so I would, personal testing, I would wait a day or 2 and not do it. And, you know, and then I would do it again and listen the next day. And I found this pattern developing. You read those high-level words, and you just see this blossoming ability to talk and to engage and to feel comfortable repeating. And that's important.
That environment has a lot to do with it, and the environment deals with funding, and funding deals with environment. The environment that you indicated, that there were no libraries, they were in areas that was deprived of funds. How do you get it around that?
Wow, now that's a big, huge challenge. I was listening to a woman named Dr. Mindy Fullilove. Maybe one day you'll get her on this show. Dynamic presentation. She's a social psychiatrist at Columbia University. And if you look at the health outcomes associated with urban design and the built environment, you begin to see the challenges. There's another gentleman named Rafel in Houston, Texas. He points out the difference between problems and the results of problems, and how treating the results of problems as if they were the problem is wasting money. You mentioned money. So let's take, for example, economic development. If you don't invest in a place, it's like what took place with redlining, which is a term every citizen should know, but especially citizens in urban environments that have had to be displaced because their neighborhoods eventually had highways built through them, or reasons for gentrification, things like that, where disinvestment takes place. We have to understand that that public health is clearly linked to our communities, and whether or not these communities are integrated and display solidarity. And if they don't, then you'll get public health nightmares. You'll get the rises in HIV/AIDS. You'll get the rises in crack addictions and heroin and these other drugs that are being tried out. And that's unfortunate, because all of that distracts from the fact that today more black males than ever before are entering college and graduating college and university. But we we have to talk about the bright side,
Right.
while still being truthful about the extreme negatives.
Yeah, but what you have to look at too is that the neighborhood, for instance, the gerrymandering of neighborhoods, where certain minority groups are not allowed financially or spiritually to move in. Although we have integration, how many neighborhoods do you have that maybe a youngster cannot really live in that neighborhood or being gerrymandered by the real estate system? You have so many neighborhoods in this country that were, at one time, it was white, and now it's black, and then it grows.
Right.
For instance, like Washington D.C. is a great example where the youngsters, people migrated to the suburbs, and then the minorities, they migrated to the suburbs, and then the whites moved out. Neighborhoods that were really white earlier, then they become black, and now D.C. is becoming black again. How do you get around that?
Well, I think these are questions that we have to look at, how
Because that's
public
the root
housing,
of the,
public
right.
housing, the availability of
Right.
public housing, the enforcement on equitable housing opportunities. These things are at the heart of things the Obama administration has this whole urban renewal policy, and one of those parts of that policy is called a choice neighborhood.
Yeah, but you're a product of your environment. For instance,
Certainly.
And economics is one of when you go for a job or apply for a job or whatever. Economics, now they have, right in this voting coming up now, they're talking about bringing more money in, through the lottery, but basically, who supports the lottery? You find that those are the people that really can't afford to.
Are you referring to the casino instance?
No, I'm
No?
not. No. What I'm saying is that they become victims, and with a situation like that, because and not only does the politicians are involved in that, and you see all around the country where this has not brought money into the educational system. See, and this is the key. Both of you are in education, but the educational system is something that really, really needs to be thought about and brought into play, because economically, if you can't afford food, you're not worried about a book.
Let me say this, Ed, too.
That's true.
You know Mr. Obama is one of my favorites. Yes.
I do.
What do you think Mr. Obama could do to help the situation with education, reading, and things that our people are not doing?
I had a wonderful time meeting the Secretary of Education, Arnie Duncan, fairly recently, a couple years back, and he was kicking off the school year. And in speaking with him and listening to him, and then in participating in the Promised Neighborhood, I think that's part of the way to go. The economic situation is directly linked to the education situation.
Definitely.
But there's so many other things that are linked here. Public health is something that we can't underestimate, because if you look at the rise of attention deficit disorder, hyper disorder, post-traumatic stress syndrome, the students are coming to school high today, or drunk, or taking medication that they may feel really badly, so they might take a few more than they should. These are students that you've taught, I've taught. These are students that are being taught today. So I think if we try to understand how these things are interwoven, how the challenge is interwoven, but we also look at what we have. There's a term, asset mapping, asset building. you can look at the problems in a situation and the needs in a community, but you also need to look at what the community has in place and start with what is positive and what is going well.
Yeah.
Now, as a part of that, education needs to, our discussion on education, our embrace of education needs to move beyond standardized tests.
Right.
We need to move beyond trying to hammer into kids education and let them experience it. There's a style of education. I presented at a conference this year.
Okay, we have about a minute now. You want to wrap up there?
Yeah, I'll wrap up by saying this. I presented at a conference this year in Puerto Rico. It was called IDEC, the International Democratic Education Conference. The next one will be in Boulder, Colorado in August of 2013. And I had one of the most emotional experiences presenting at this conference and learning at this conference from the other presentations.
Well, what do you think?
Democratic education is a significant way to go.
It's significant. Dr. Weeds, quickly, you want to say a few words about that?
Yeah, I just want to
your education.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I'm just so proud to be sitting next to my mentee. And I'm hoping that we will work real hard all over the United States of America to re-elect President Barack Obama. Because as I listen to him and sharing his sensitivity and his concern, I know that Mr. Barack Obama has the same kinds of concerns.
Right.
So if we can re-elect him, then the United States would be a better place for young boys and girls as far as reading is concerned.
I want to thank you for being here, and we're running out of time. We have to come back again. But I like to emphasize that closing the show, vote. Right now, you can start early voting. Most people, they make excuses for not voting. Whoever you vote for, go out and vote. You are the participant, and you will be the results. Don't sit back and say, well, I don't like either one. Don't come back next week or next month and say, hey, look, all of them are the same. You have to evaluate and get out and vote. This has been Ed Brown. See you next time.